Good morning, everyone. We're starting a new sermon series this year, starting out the new year. Tongues of fire, just like you saw in that video, how fire can catch and spread in an amazing way. So I needed to clarify, that's why I have those extra slides in here. So this sermon series is not about developing our skills as dragons, okay? So it's not about fire-breathing dragons. And also, please, I don't want to recommend that you go home and you practice lighting your tongues on fire, okay? We're talking metaphorically. And also, I don't want you to go out and follow the example of Gene Simmons, with his long tongue, okay? So what we're looking at is actually this verse from the book of James. And what we heard in the video, I recommend reading that chapter. It's quite, of course, James, he's pretty down on the tongue. He's pretty, the power of the word has been used for so much evil, so he really lets us have it. But actually, it's a double-edged sword. It can be used for great good or for great evil. So we have to be careful that we don't use it for evil. That we said good fires, not bad fires. So here's the verse, the key verse that we're going to focus our sermon series on. How great a forest is set ablaze by a small fire, and the tongue is a fire. So we want to set heavenly blazes. Actually, most of the content from the sermon series I'm pulling from another pastor, Nelson Searcy, the Journey Church. Of course, I've taken a lot of content and revised it, but a lot of the research that he did, so I definitely want to acknowledge that and appreciate that. So, let's think about the power of words. That's what we want to start the whole series of, just really get grounded in what is the power of words in our life and in the world around us. Now, there's an interesting study that was done a few years back. I think a bunch of English professors didn't have any time, needed something to do, had some extra money, who knows. But they did this research to see what are the 4 most powerful phrases in the English language. And there's the first one, the 4-word one, 3-word, 2-word, and 1-word phrase. So what do you think the 4-word phrase was, the most powerful phrase in the English language?
I love you.
4 words. Once upon a time. Now, we all heard that when we were growing up, right? Once upon a time, that's where the stories begin, right? Now, how about the second one? It starts with I and ends with you.
I love you.
Oh, that was too easy. Okay, how about the 2-word one? What 2-word phrase?
Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you. I think it should have been thank you. But actually, they came up with I'm sorry. Now, I think that's cheating, isn't it? That's actually 3 words, right? I am sorry, I'm sorry. Anyway, they're English professors. I guess they can do what they want. So what was the number 1 most powerful phrase?
Yes.
Word?
Yes.
No.
Yes, no, stop.
I.
Oh, close. No, it was I. Me, myself, and I. I'm the most important, right?
What's the criteria for powerful?
Now, that's a really good question. I don't know. These English professors, you never know what they may have thought of or what they may have been doing. So, as we're doing this series, what we're going to focus on is this verse also from Proverbs. Is the tongue has the power of life and death. Now, that isn't just what you put on your tongue. If you eat poison, you'll die. Eat good for nothing. We're talking about tongue as the word. Things that we say and words that we speak. So if you think about some of the examples of how the tongue or the words we speak has that power of life and death, think of some of the bad things that can happen just because of what people say. You think about it, things like gossip or hate speech or attacking other people with their words, how destructive that can be. But also how words can bring life. Words of love, expressions of love and encouragement, and all these things. So it's amazing how that same tool, words and language, can have a very positive effect or a very negative and destructive effect. So we're aiming for the good side, right?
Yeah.
So in all of our sermon series, we're looking at how do we develop a life that's fulfilled, a life where we can experience joy and experience God. So remember the three great purposes? We always talk about this, the life's three great purposes, to be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion. Well, we can boil that down to love God, love your neighbor, and love creation. Right? The three great things, purposes in our life, all centered around love and becoming true individuals of true love. Well, the purpose of this sermon series is to focus us in on the power of words. The goal is to increase the words that we use that create joy for God, that bring blessings to other people around us, and help us have a true dominion of love over the things of creation. This is the purpose of this series, and we'll keep coming back to that. How can we use words to help us connect more deeply with God, our Heavenly Parent? Words to bless the people around us, and words to make change in the world around us. So, to do that, I want to talk about three just basic understandings and truths that we need to know about our words. And the first one is that words are a gift from God. Now, this is very important to understand because God created us to be co-creators. We're not just servants following God. God designed us to be partners with Him. So God gave us amazing power, and that power is manifest in the power of our words, the power to create. Sometimes we don't manage those words so well, right? But the truth is that we are always creating. This amazing power that God's given us, it's never turned off. And when we don't manage it well, what happens is we create bad stuff. We're always creating. We're either creating good or bad. Healthy things or making things prosper, or bad stuff. And a lot of times we have no idea why we're creating garbage in our lives. We have no idea. We're just unconsciously thinking. The way we talk, what we do is creating messes and problems in our lives. So, like any gift that God gives us, there's a responsibility that we have with our words. The way we speak, the way we use words, and the way we impact the world around us. So if we remember, this amazing power of words is a gift from God, our Heavenly Parent. And we want to be people who are good stewards of that gift. Just like all the gifts and talents and things that we've been given by God, we want to use that well to bring joy to God, fulfillment in our lives, blessing to the world around us. So, the second point is that words, as I said before, they can build up or tear down. They can strengthen and encourage, or they can destroy. Hey, you've probably heard the expression, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words can never hurt you. Yeah, I think maybe after the third grade we realized, that's not really true. Because words cut to the quick. Some mean, cruel words can really hurt. Now, we learned that expression so we would toughen ourselves up against that effect. But the reality is that words have a profound effect on us in our lives. There's an interesting story that this pastor told about having a flight back from California. And maybe you've had the experience, or you get into your seat and someone comes up and says, "You're sitting in my seat," right? You read that experience. I've had it more than once. Oh no, what's going on? Well, this particular guy got really upset. He started yelling. He said, "You stupid idiot, what are you doing in my seat?" Just wow, this kind of word. And the pastor's sitting there going, "Well, here's my ticket, here's the seat number," and they got it, and the airline attendant came up and looked at it, and they looked at her ticket, his ticket, their two tickets. Well, look, they both have the same seat. They're both assigned to the same seat. Well, then it looked a little bit more, but oh wait, your ticket, you're supposed to be going to San Francisco. This plane's going to New York. So the guy gets even more upset. He doesn't apologize. He gets more upset. "Why did you let me get on this plane in the first place? It's all your fault." And yelling and screaming, and finally, they get him off the plane and off to catch his plane. And how do you think the atmosphere was after that? The pastor says, it's just like blood pressure was up, both angry and frustrated and just all kinds of things. how that kind of thing can just disturb and affect the whole environment. Well, on the other side, how words of encouragement can make a difference. Now, you can probably have lots of examples yourself. I think of one time when I was on a challenge course, and it was a challenge program, and where you challenge yourself to do more and more. We were running this obstacle course up in the hills, and up and down and around, and we did this loop. And so I'm running and just determined, okay, you're going to challenge yourself to go beyond and push beyond. Well, half that course, you're just on your own, you're kind of going, oh, I think this is probably the last lap. I can't make it anymore. I'm just feeling so tired and it's hurting. But what happens is you get up to the lap line, the finish line where you can start another lap. That's where everyone else who's not running is there. They're cheering, come on, go. Oh, I'm getting choked up. Just as I'm coming up to the finish line, I go, okay, I've had enough. But everyone there is cheering, saying, you can do it, go for it. And so, oh, yeah, I can do it. And before I know it, I'm past and I've started another lap, right? And I'm coming around again and say, okay, this has got to be the last one. But then I get to that cheering section and whoa, suddenly I'm filled with energy and say, oh yeah, I can do another one. Yeah, well, anyway. But isn't that true? Yeah. Especially those of you who've been in sports or performing, and you get a response from the audience or cheers from the crowd, you feel it and you respond. It's a powerful force that encourages us and energizes. So words can build us up or they can tear us down. So we, in our lives, right, it's important that we become conscious of what are our words doing. And then there's the third very important truth about our words. Our words shape the quality of our lives. The words that we use, especially the words that we say to ourselves, but also the way we influence the environment around us, they shape the quality of our life. If you think about the words we tell ourselves when we go into a new experience, if I go in and say, oh, I'm going to hate this is going to be terrible. Mm-hmm. You have that conversation, you're telling yourself those words, what are you going to experience? You're probably not going to enjoy it, right? Mm-hmm. But if you go in with enthusiasm and, oh, I can't wait to see what's, and you're telling yourself, how great you're expecting it to be, then already you have a brighter spirit. The words we tell ourselves affect our attitude so much, and our attitude affects our experience. Also, if you think about relationships with people, words can make a big difference in husband-wife relationship, the communication, the quality of the words are being said. I've been told that my tongue can be somewhat sharp. Now, I'm sure everyone's shocked. Nobody's shocked? But a sharp tongue, I've been coached, definitely doesn't make for a very warm friendship feeling, when you have a sharp tongue. So it's something I'm continually working on, right? I have a little motivation, right, to work on that, because it makes a difference in our relationships. The way we speak, how we speak with each other, powerfully affects the quality of my life. I mean, definitely, my home life is deeply affected by the quality of my language, my talking. If I'm talking rude and angry and judgmental, what does that create? Not a very pleasant environment. And certainly not a pleasant environment for me either. So, looking and paying attention to what we're doing with our words, it shapes our environment. Actually, an interesting study is that they did a study of violent criminals that were in prison, and they said to explore what was their vocabulary. They found that these, most extreme violent criminals, they tended to have 1/5 of the vocabulary that most people had. Like if you knew 100 words, they would only know 20 of them. And they didn't have words to express themselves. So to express themselves, they used physical violence. So words and language are going to shape the quality of our lives. It's important for us to pay attention to that. So, on the foundation of talking about these things, let's talk about how are we going to master the words in our lives. How are we going to truly gain dominion and power over the words in our life? Here's from James. And this is how James is talking about from the verse we heard at the beginning. He says, if we put bits into the mouth of horses to make them obey us, we guide their whole bodies. Right? So there's an example of how you control a horse. You put a harness or a bit in their mouth. Or look at ships. Though they are so large that it takes strong winds to drive them, yet they are guided by a very small rudder, wherever the will of the pilot directs. So also, the steering and controlling is just by a small thing. And then the next line he says, so also the tongue is a small member of our body, yet it boasts of great exploits. Because that small tongue can change the direction of a ship, of our whole body, of our whole attitude, and all of our feelings. So, how are we going to harness that rudder? How are we going to get control over that so that we're having the effect that we want to have in our lives and in the world around us? So, here's 5 tips for how we can harness the power of words in our lives. So, where's a good place to start?
Home.
Who should we start with?
Family.
Home, family,
Yourself.
ourselves. Yeah.
God.
How about God?
Yes.
Let's start with God. You know, if we start our day acknowledging God, you know, from the very, you know, when I first open up my eyes and wake up, you know, do I say, good morning, Heavenly Parent, good morning, Lord, or do I say, oh Lord, it's morning? What's our expression? The first thing in the morning, do we get up? Actually, this is the, you know, our in Christian terms, we call this praising God. Now, praising God means thanking God for who God is. Different than gratitude. We express gratitude by thanking God for what God does. But praise is just thanking God for who God is. So if the first thing in the morning we get up and we think about who God is in my life, thank you, God, for being my loving parent, for being that counselor, you know, for forgiving and guiding me. Thank you for just being in my life. If we think about even our relationship within the family, you know, God is our heavenly parent. I don't know. In childhood, you may or may not have had a similar experience, but when we were young, one of our favorite things to do in the morning, particularly on Saturday mornings, actually, in addition to cartoons, that was, you know, everyone would get up, and what would we do? We would all run in and we would pile into our parents' bed, right? And just pile into mom and dad's bed, and oh yeah, it's so great to be in the family bed, right? And how about when the night was kind of scary, like a stormy night or having a nightmare or something like that? What would we do to get secure? We'd get into our parents' bed, right? We'd get in and snuggle, because that was the safest place to be. The safest place in the universe was in our parents' bed. Well, when we wake up in the morning, we should realize that we are always in Heavenly Parent's hands. That God is right there, embracing us and encouraging us. And we need to remind ourselves with our words, with our thoughts, that God, our Heavenly Parent, is right there. And if we take those few moments, first thing when we start the day, we're actually setting the rudder of our tongue, of our thoughts, the course for our whole day by centering it on God. Now, also, once we get up, of course, we like to make the tradition of studying God's words and prayer and like that. But especially from the very beginning, good morning, Father, Mother, God, my loving Heavenly Parent. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for your love. And I'm looking forward to the day together with you. Let's start our day with God. A powerful way for us to harness our tongue and shape the course of the day and what's going to happen. Actually, even just right now, I want you to take 15 seconds. You know, just pause and please close your eyes and give Heavenly Parent some acknowledgement, some praise. Just silently, mentally, say thank you. Amen. Thank you. Doesn't that change the atmosphere? When we bring God into our presence, when we bring God real, not just the concept out there, oh God, Heavenly Parent, but really God in my heart. God, that loving parent that's present all the time in my life and wants desperately to be part of our lives. That's what we have to remind ourselves of. That's who we want to be. Well, first purpose, connecting with God, right? That's our first person's lesson. So what's the second one? It's connecting with the people around us, right? Loving God and loving our neighbor. Before I dive into that, here's Father Moon's words on a life of attendance. He says, you must live a life of attendance as being present to God. From the very moment after rising from your bed in the morning, offer your first words to heaven. When you step outside your home, your first step should be dedicated to heaven. If you develop such a habit, your life will become a life of attendance. And this is what we're looking for. This is what we're seeking for in our lives. So, let's start today acknowledging God, our Heavenly Parent, silently, quietly, even while we're still lying in bed, when kind of want to go over and cold outside and snuggle into the bed and the pillow a little bit. Think about God. Acknowledge God and say, okay, God, let's take on the day. Let's go forward in the day. Second way for us to harness that is to use our tongue, our words, to benefit the people around us. This is also our life of service. Use our words to encourage other people. And let's make a habit, a tradition of every day looking for who can I encourage? Where can I share an encouraging words? Now, at home, you always have the people around you at home. Every day, every morning, before you go off to take on your day, to work or school or whatever, hey, let's say something encouraging to someone else in the house. Let's just make it a habit. And the people that we're around, look for opportunities to give encouragement, to say encouraging words. Everybody needs encouragement. Everyone. All of us. Well, maybe I don't. No, that's not. I need it more than everybody. I need some, please. We all need encouragement. So let's be people that give encouragement. The truth is when you give encouragement, it also lifts your spirit, right? It generates vitality elements in our lives. Now, this third one I'm going to take on, and it might be a little bit controversial, because I know some people, they like to hold on to some of their old habits, and they probably have lots of reasons and justifications for not. But, we really need to take on cursing, the language that we use in our lives. I know, it's especially when you're a teenager, a young person, it's like, if you're not cursing, you're not cool, that's like the world is telling you, look, you're not a sophisticated person if you don't use four-letter words, if you don't curse. But cursing brings a low spirit. Cursing separates us from God. We want, instead of cursing, we should be blessing, right? We should be blessing. Our words, they make a difference. And just cleaning up the language that we use, even though everyone else is doing it, we don't want to be like everyone else. We want to make a difference, a positive influence in the world around us. So I know, the guys won't accept me if I don't use their language. Hogwash. We can express ourselves, work on our vocabulary to be able to communicate things. It's just, cursing does not bring God's presence. If we felt like cursing was bringing God, and I felt closer to God when I curse, no, it doesn't bring closeness to God. It might think, but it makes me closer to my friends. Does it? Is it really bringing connection? It makes me more accepted. Do I want to be accepted in that kind of way? cleaning up our language, it makes a difference. You know, God is looking for us to be positive influences in the world around us. Not influenced by the world in bad ways, but positive influences. You don't need to make a big deal of it. You know, honestly speaking, cursing is not a sin. You know, you won't go to hell, you know, because you said a curse word. But if we develop the habit of positive expressions, the habit of not cursing, we create a different spirit. We create a different environment. And that's why we do it. You know, it's interesting the effect that cursing has on people's lives. This is an interesting story. It's actually from 1904. And 1904 is an amazing time for revivals around the world, Christian revivals. And they had this amazing revival in England and in America. And here's a quote from a study that was talking about the 20th century revivals. And I'll read that. It says, stoppages occurred in the coal mines. Now we're talking about coal mines as a result of the revival. So many people converting. It wasn't due to the unpleasantness or conflict with management and workers. No. It was because so many foul-mouthed miners, you know, who cursed all the time, you know, became converted and stopped using foul language. That created a problem because the horses that hauled the coal trucks into the mines couldn't understand what they were saying because they weren't cursing anymore, right? So they had to retrain the horses, right? They didn't retrain the guys. The horses got retrained. Wow. But it's amazing the effect that it has. Here's what James has to say. He says he's really strong about our words and the tongue. He says the tongue is restless and evil. It's full of deadly poison. Right? That's what cursing is, just deadly poison. Sometimes it praises our Lord and Father, and sometimes it curses those who've been made in the image of God. And so blessing and cursing come pouring out of the same mouth. That's not right. James he's really taken on language in this chapter. He really wants to straighten this out because the power of our word, we don't even comprehend how powerful the word is. The words that we use to create the environment around us, to shape things. So I encourage you, look at this, take this on. Find other ways to express it. You know, to express frustration or challenge. You know. But let's remove cursing. Let's just be different. Let's be different people. Now, the next one is also a bit of a challenge, but it's something that we're not unfamiliar with. We should listen twice as much as we speak. Now, I know I'm talking about the power of words and all that, but you know, God gave us 2 of these, right? And only 1 of these, right? So we should listen twice as much as we speak. Honestly speaking, we're going to learn much more. We're going to be much more responsive and also much more relevant when we speak if we listen to people. The power of our words, we don't want to just waste our words. If we listen, then when we respond to things, we're responding in powerful and effective ways. Now, there's a bunch of great quotes to encourage us to listen more than we speak. This first one is actually from Mark Twain. It says, it's better to keep your mouth closed and let people think that you're a fool than to open it and remove all doubt so that they know that you're a fool. Right? Or then, how about this one? You never saw a fish on a wall with its mouth shut. Because if it kept its mouth shut, it wouldn't have been caught, right? So all kinds of trouble we get into when we open up our mouths, right? How about this? A small mind and a big mouth are usually found in the same place. And then here's, again, from the Bible. This is from the book of Proverbs. He says, fools think their own way is right, but the wise listen to others. So, let's listen to people, listen to each other. Listen twice as much as when we talk. Now, The last point is pretty universal. We understand this, is that everything we want to center on God, center on our life. We talked about starting our day with God, starting about acknowledging and being a blessing to others, removing cursing and negative stuff from our language, listening to other people. But all that stuff happens with God at the center. God is our guidepost, guiding us. God is at the center of everything that we want in our lives. Actually, yesterday in our Divine Principle study, and by the way, let me put a plug in, please. I encourage you to come join us on Saturday mornings. We have a breakfast together, some fellowship time, and then we discussed and explored different aspects of the Divine Principle and also how we can apply it to our lives. So it's not so much of a lecture format, but more of a, we take on some points and then discuss and explore that. And anyway, Yunji brought up a great example about Native American tradition. I may get the story a little bit wrong, but how the tradition of a grandfather telling his grandson about we all have challenges in our lives, that we all have within us two wolves. One wolf that wants to do good and one wolf that wants to do bad. And they're constantly at battle inside of us, the good and bad. We're constantly battling it out. And the grandson says, so how do we know who wins? Who's going to win the battle? And the grandfather says, well, the wolf that you feed is the one that's going to win. The one that we feed, the one that we give the power to, thank you, that's who's going to win. So in our lives, everything we do comes from the source of God's presence in our lives. Everything we say comes from our heart. So the question is what's the quality of our heart? If our heart isn't right, it's going to come out in our words. Even we can work to doctor up and put cosmetics and put a little makeup on our words. But honestly speaking, the very same words can be spoken with very different hearts. You could say, thank you. You say, thank you. Right?
It's true.
Right? The very same words can make a huge difference in the impact. It's what's coming from our heart. So, where do we want our heart to be centered? What wolf do we want to feed? The good one. We want to feed God's presence in our lives. So our actions, our choice, our vision, and our goals and our perspective all have God at the center of everything. So this is where joy and fulfillment is going to come in our lives. Is when we live a life with God at the center. When we're practicing using the amazing power of our words to cultivate and expand our relationship with God, our relationship with the people around us, a positive influence, not a negative one. That our words have weight and power because we listen as well as speak. We listen twice as much, right, as we speak. And we put God at the center of everything. Here's the verse from Paul. This is the Living Bible translation from the book of Romans. He says, Do not let any part of your bodies become tools of wickedness. Now, that's every part of our body, right? But right now, we're talking about our tongue, our words. Don't let it become tools of wickedness, to be used for sinning. But give yourself completely to God. Every part of you. That includes this guy right here, right? For you are back from death, and you want to be tools in the hands of God, to be used for His good purpose. So, as Father Moon says, you should not speak or act with just any words and actions. You should be raised to the position of God's sons and daughters and speak and act as God's sons and daughters. That's who we are. And God is longing to have the people who can represent God's heart in this world. So, as we start this new series and we begin taking ownership over our words, our tongue, and what we do in our lives, I encourage you, look at these five points and reflect on them and choose at least one of them. So, okay, which one of these am I going to make a breakthrough in? Am I going to change? Am I going to improve in? We all have room to grow. And these are just 5 areas that we can target, we can challenge. But in this next month and a half or so, as we're exploring these ideas and exploring the impact of our language and our words in our lives and the world around us, let's be owners of that and be people who can make a difference. Okay, so please join me in prayer. Good morning, Father, Mother, God. Thank you so much for your incredible love and trust in us. You've given us so much power to be partners with you in this process of creation. And we hardly comprehend the power that our words have to influence our own state of mind and to influence the world around us. Heavenly Parent, we want to continue to grow, to become the sons and daughters that comfort your heart, that bring joy to you, and that are a blessing to the world around us. So we pray as we go forward this day and over these next few weeks that we can put a new focus and attention on our words, that our words can become things that bring life and bring light. Heavenly Parent, thank you so much. And as your sons and daughters, we determine to be your forces of goodness in the world around us. Thank you, and offer this together as blessed Central families. Amen and adieu. Okay, thank you, everyone. Please turn to your neighbor and share about the power